The Western American theater tradition begins about 2,000 years ago with a fertility festival near what is Athens today, honoring the Greek god of wine, Dionysus. The festival was celebrated by digging a pit in the ground, sacrificing goats in it, having a huge orgy, and singing a song to praise the god. In this way, the ancient Greeks ensured that the crops would grow for another year and the miraculous transformation of grapes to wine would continue to happen. The key elements of Dionysian worship were public outpourings of emotion, so an orgiastic frenzy, songs of praise about the god, storytelling, proximity to the earth, a pit in the ground, and animal sacrifice, usually goats. As civilization developed in Greece, the ritual became less barbaric. The animal sacrifices and orgies disappeared and were replaced by ever more beautiful and complicated performances and songs, often by a chorus of men dressed as goats, or half-goats, called satyrs. By about 500 BC, in addition to the songs, the Festival of Dionysus also included the performance of tragic plays and stories. The point of the play was not only to honor Dionysus, but also to create the giant outpouring of emotion that was such an essential part of worshiping him. This outpouring of emotion was called a catharsis. The Greeks built huge permanent theaters for these sacred performances, and the theaters looked a lot like pits in the ground. A contest was held every year as part of the Dionysian festival, and communities all over Greece competed to create the best, most effective tragic plays to honor the god. One of the most famous winners of this contest was a man named Thespis, who wrote his tragic story as a dialogue or conversation between him, the first actor, and a chorus. The next innovation created by the playwright Aeschylus was the addition of a second actor. So now the tragedies included two actors and a chorus. Ancient Greece's most famous playwright Sophocles wrote in a third actor for his plays. His play Oedipus the King was considered the finest play of its day. Greek theaters always had the same design. The audience sat in the theatron, the performers used the orchestra for their performances, and entered and exited through the parados. The scene was a building behind the performance space. The Greek actors wore masks, and much of the text was sung, so there were usually musicians on stage too, playing flute, drum, and lyre. Although much of the Dionysian ritual had been toned down from its orgiastic beginnings, the same four essential ingredients were more or less still in place. The theaters were still big pits in the ground. Instead of murdering animals, the actors performed tragic stories about death, murder, and betrayal. The audience experienced a catharsis, and there were still songs of praise, and even a few men dressed up like satyrs. They performed comedic interludes to lighten things up in between all the heavy tragedies. Thousands of people attended the festival and enjoyed the catharsis. It was a lot more like going to a rock concert mixed with a giant tent revival. Imagine lots of yelling and screaming, eating and celebrating, weeping and singing. It was very vital worship and ritual.